and welcome to Craft with Sarah and day 17 of the Christmas Craft Countdown, where I'm sharing a new Christmas craft project with you every day for 20 days. Today's project is one of my favourites. It's this beautiful fireplace scene, which you can customise by adding the names of your family along the stockings, and you can add as few or as many stockings as you want. There's even space along the bottom to add an extra message. The design comes with an optional card back on it, so if you want to, you can add that and it will stand right up, or you can just leave that off if you want to put it in a frame or prop it up against something instead of having it freestanding. The SVG is free to download for the next 24 hours, so let's find out how to get it. If you haven't already registered your free ticket for the Christmas Craft Countdown, go to craftwithsarah.com/CCC to do so. Once registered, check for an email from me with subject line Christmas Craft Countdown ticket information or any of the other emails from me that you've been sent throughout this countdown. Can't find them? Check your junk or spam box to see if they've gone there by mistake. These emails contain the link to view the countdown projects and download today's files. Scroll down the page to find today's project. Click the button to start the files automatically downloading to your computer or mobile device. Each download is only available for free for 24 hours after it goes live. If you have missed some, check out the Instant Access Bundle at craftwithsarah.com/CCC bundle, which gives immediate and ongoing access to all of the files from the Christmas Craft Countdown. All downloads come in zip folders. You need to unzip them before you can upload the files into Cricut Design Space. Once you've downloaded and unzipped the folder, open up Cricut Design Space and start a new project. Go into Upload over on the left and then Upload Image. You can then either click Browse to find the files on your computer or drag and drop them in. The one to choose is the one which starts SVG in the file name. So I'll click and drag that one in. And then it looks like this. We've got our fireplace on the left and then an envelope template on the right. Press Upload. And then click it in your recent uploads and press Add to Canvas. It should load in at the correct size. And because we've got the envelope on here, it does look really big. So it's just over 22.5 inches wide. But don't worry, it does still cut from your regular Cricut mats and your regular cardstock. We need to do a few things before we can get this cut out. One of them is to add our names to the stockings and add as many stockings as you want. And the second is to format the envelope. To start though, click on the design and then press Ungroup. If you don't want to cut the envelope, then drag a box around all the envelope layers and press Delete on your keyboard to get rid of them. I actually didn't quite manage to select them all, so there we go. So if you don't want the envelope, you can absolutely remove it. However, I am going to cut the envelope, so I'll show you how to do that first. Click on the blue rectangle in the middle of it, and then over in Operations, change that to be a score layer. It then changes how it looks, so it's not blue anymore, and you get that dashed line. Look in your Layers panel until you find that. It's hard to see because it doesn't tell you anymore. So what you can do is click the little eye to make sure that's the correct one. I'll just change that to score. It probably would have been easier to do that before I changed it to a score line actually. So let's just undo that and show you a better way. So an easier way to do it would be to look for the blue layer and write score on there. And then the one underneath it, write attach to score. That's going to make the next bit really, really easy. So now I can click that blue rectangle and change it to score. Click the layer in the Layers panel, press Shift on your keyboard and choose the one underneath it, and then press Attach. And now that is all ready, so I could cut this. I'm going to drag a box around all those envelope pieces, group them together, name my group envelope, and then I'm just going to hide it by clicking the eye next to it so that we can concentrate on doing the fireplace. I'll just need to remember to turn that on again at the end. Let's zoom in a little bit so it's easier to see. I want to get my Cricut to draw on all of these stockings. Each stocking is made up of 4 different layers. And find them in the layers panel, press shift and choose all 4 of them. I'll just move it over here because it's going to be easier to work with. Over here, and then group each of those stockings. Then we can decide how many stockings we want. I'm going to do 4 different ones. So I can click this one and press duplicate to make a copy. And I'll also duplicate this one. Then I'll have 2 of each design. I want to make them all different colours. So on this one, I'll look down the layers panel, click on that dark red, change it to a dark blue. And then the light red, I'll go for a light blue. And then on the other one, let's go for a purple. And let's go a light purple. And then I'll actually choose the purple that's already in the fireplace. That looks a bit weird, doesn't it? I should have done it the other way around. The dark one on top and then a lighter one underneath. Let's size these. So drag them over on top of the fireplace because we need to make sure they'll actually fit. 4 actually goes on there really well. I don't need to resize them. But if I had 5, for example, then I would need to make them all smaller. To make them all smaller in proportion with each other, select one of the groups, press Shift on your keyboard, then choose all of them together, and then you can change them all at once. Let's move them a bit closer. You want to make sure that they don't overlap the edges of the fireplace. Otherwise, if you're using the envelope, they won't fit. So that would be great if I had 5. However, I am just doing 4. So let's undo all of that to make them that bigger size again. Okay, delete that one. And then move them back over here to add the names. To add the names, first click on one of the stockings and press ungroup. To add the text, go into text and then type out your name. We need to change this to a draw font. So select it all by double clicking, go into font, and then under filters, change it to writing. I'm going to use Alicia stencil script. Under style, change it to writing. And now we've got that pretty single line that the Cricut would draw. Resize it smaller and then place it over the stocking, and you can rotate it. So just bring your mouse out a little bit until the arrow changes so that it's got a little curve in it, and that lets you rotate. So you can get it so it fits exactly in that stocking. I'm just jumping in here with a quick edit. So I'm recording this after I finished all the original recording because I realized that I'd missed a little step out. When you're doing your text and you change the font, so I'll do the same thing that I just showed you. Search for writing. I'm going to go for this Alicia stencil script. If you change the style to writing in here, which is what I just did, even though it looks like a draw font, it is still saying it's a basic cut. So the thing I forgot to show you just now is you need to go into the operations drop down and change it to a pen layer. And then you can change the color of the pen if you want to. Just make sure that you do change the operation to pen, otherwise it will still try and cut it instead of drawing it. So we've got our font, change the style to writing in here, and then change the operation to pen. So I'm going to jump back to my original recording now. Just bear in mind that when you click my words, when I'm clicking them and using them, I forgot to do this operation change up here. So please don't forget. don't do what I did. So yeah, just make sure you do that as you're going along. And just remember that I missed that step out. Okay, let's carry on. That looks great. And then I'll click it And actually first I need to ungroup all these other stockings. So I'll click that one and then press duplicate. Not sure why it's gone all the way over there. 1. Then I can type my different names out. So let's do all the craft with Sarah team. There we go. For some of the shorter names, you could make it a bit bigger. For longer names, you may need to make it smaller because it has to fit inside those little white bits on the stocking. Once you've done that, then we can click and drag. Is that going to select the whole thing? It is. All right, so I'm going to move these colored bits away. I'm just dragging around the bottom of each stocking and moving it out the way a little bit. And now I can select just the top fluffy bit and the name and attach them. Attach is what tells the Cricut we want it to do the writing on these particular bits of cardstock. There we go. And then you can just drag them back into place, but you don't really have to, it doesn't matter. Right, there we go. If you want to double check how it looks on the stocking, on the fireplace, just drag a box around each of the stocking layers to group them together again, and then move them back on. You could also add some text along the bottom of the fireplace. Go into text again. Let's go for the craft with Sarah family. Make it smaller. Drag this layer over to the side just so that I'm working on it away from everything else to make it easier. Drag around both of them and go align center to put it exactly in the middle, and then press attach. And there we go. This would now be ready for me to cut. I just need to find that envelope again, turn it back on by clicking the eye. If you want to add a score line down the middle of your base bit of the fireplace to make it easier to know where to fold, you can do that too. I just thought of that. So let's just show you that before we get to cutting it. So here is my base. Let's go into shapes, choose a score line. I'll need to rotate it 90 degrees, so type 90 into the search box and hit enter. Search box, rotate box. Need to think of my words. All right, the width of this is here, so I'll copy that, click on the score line, and oh, why is it on the height? That's weird. It's like it didn't remember that I rotated it. Select both of those layers, go into align and center. And that puts the score line exactly down the middle. And then once again, press attach. Attach moves the layers to the top. So go to arrange, center back, and then you can drag it back into position if you want to. Now I can turn my envelope back on. Go to make it to separate out all the different colors. You can change the paper size in here. And for the white, because I've got my envelope in white, I'm going to need 12 by 12. If you want to use your envelope out of something other than white, then you can just click all the layers, change it to a color. Is it not going to let me do it? Why isn't it letting me do it? Probably because of that score line. Let's select all the ones apart from the score line. And I'll just make this a random color I haven't used anywhere else. Let's go for a dark grey. So now when I click make it, my white's going to be separate, so I can make this onto my normal A4 paper. You see all the names are exactly where they're supposed to be. And then my envelope will cut out separate. For envelopes, lightweight cardstock or scrapbook paper work best, or even coloured paper. Just the lighter the better for the envelope, whereas everything else I want to do from my regular cardstock. If you want to change the paper size, you do need to do that for every single colour. So I'm going to go down into there. And you can drag and drop things around. Just make sure they don't overlap. For that, it will work perfectly because it's going to be cutting the middle of that fireplace out. So rather than have a bit of scrap paper in the middle, I just cut the stocking from it. When you're happy with how everything's looking, press continue to connect to your Cricut machine, get everything cut out from the cardstock, and then I'll show you how to stick it all together. Here are all of my layers cut out, and I've laid them one on top of the other to check I'm happy with my colours and that I haven't missed anything. I already love how this looks, so it's going to look amazing once it's got all the dimension in it. Now, full disclosure, I have already stuck together 3 of these stockings just to make the video go a little bit quicker, but I've left my one to stick together in this video to show you how to do it. As with all my layered designs, we're starting at the bottom and working upwards. So let's move these bits apart so that we are left with just the bottom bits. Oh dear, I'm getting in a right old muddle here. Now, one thing to note is that yours will look a little bit different to mine. Your clock faces up here are all going to be filled in, whereas mine have holes in them on every layer. And when I was cutting it out, I realised that was actually a mistake. They should have been filled in. So I'll make that change before you get the files. So don't worry that your clocks don't have holes. They're not actually supposed to. Right, our very bottom layer is the card layer. And I've folded this in half so that it will stand up. And then on top of that will go the dark purple layer, and this will be glued on top. The glue I'm using for this project is called Kalal. I really like it because it doesn't bend or wrinkle the cardstock like other glues can do, and I put it into these needle tip applicator bottles. So you need to be careful that you don't put your glue in this top bit because that's going to overhang the card. You only want it in this bit, and it's actually kind of going to be easier, I reckon, to put the glue on here rather than on the back of that purple. All those edges will line up. You can wiggle it about a bit if it's not quite in place. There we are. The next layer is this one, which is another glue layer, and it's making that shadow effect in the fireplace. This time I'll add the glue to the back of the new layer that's about to go on. Just wiggle that. Oh, look, I've done that back to front. That doesn't line up. Oh, that wasn't very smart, was it? So my holly and my candles don't quite line up because I've just stuck that on the wrong way round. But I think it's going to be okay. I don't think you'll really notice once everything else is on top. That was really silly. All right, next is this one. I'm going to check it now. Now I'm paranoid. Oh, but now everything's going to be wrong. I reckon I actually did the dark purple layer wrong. That's what I did wrong. Oh well. I'm going to use my foam squares for this one. Foam tape would probably be easier if you've got it, because then you could just put some strips down. Whereas I'm going to have to put lots of these little pieces. So I may be making this back to front to what you can see in Design Space. Oh no. As project disasters go though, it's not the worst thing ever. I can live with it. Don't forget your little clock at the top. You won't have that cut out, so don't worry that you can't see that. Right, nice amount of foam on there, and then peel the tops off to reveal all the stickiness underneath. I'm going to line this up, try and get that vaguely straight, and use the bottom because I want it to stand up straight. So the bottom's the most important thing to line up. And that one along the top. Next is the other layer of the flame, and this is a glue layer. Pick it up carefully. That wasn't very careful. And stick on top. The next layer is the front of the fireplace, or the bricks. And this one I'm also going to do with my foam squares to give it some dimension. And these foam squares is actually the reason why I can't have those holes in the clock like I originally had here, because the depth wouldn't be right, because we're foaming so much of this up. To have the colour right at the bottom it would look weird having that much depth. So what I'll do for your version is change it so that the circle of the clock sits right behind it. Once again, use the bottom as the line-up point. And then push down when you're happy. Next, we've got the layer which makes the brickwork, and this is a glue layer, which is good because those little pieces between the bricks are very small. This is where the needle tip bottles come in really handy, because you can just whiz down there really quickly. I probably should be taking more time, but I always tend to rush a little bit in these videos. I don't want you to get bored. I'll try and get in a few of these. There we are. And stick on top. We're almost there now. Just got a few of those extra decorations. So next is this brown one. And that makes the top of the mantelpiece. And this is where we start being a bit clever with the clock. So you'll have two bits. You've got a white bit here and then a coloured red circle to go behind it. Turn the clock upside down and stick that red circle over it so that you cover the hands in the clock. And then take your mantelpiece top. Just go check that's the right way around, which it is. Turn it upside down. And again, we're going to add some glue to the back here and line this up. So then the depth on that clock looks right. And then for this layer, it's up to you if you want to glue it or foam it. I think I'm going to glue it. So actually, I probably could have just glued the white layer there, but at least this way I know it's all in the right place. So there's some glue and put that on. Next, we've got the trim. So that brown was making up the clock. Now we've got the trim. And let's have a think. I think I will foam this. Or do I want to glue it? I'm going to glue it because the stockings on top will be foamed. So they'll have that little pop of dimension. There's that one. And now my holly leaves first. I'm going to cheat, put my foam straight on there. And you actually can't tell now that my very bottom layer was put on the wrong way round, which is good. Got one set of holly leaves, and then second one just on there. And I'll glue the berries because they're a little bit small for foaming. I don't want them to stand out too much either. Put that one that way and then try and mirror the shape on the other side. Looking good. Now we've got the trim for the rest of the fireplace. I'll glue this one too and turn it upside down. That one there. And then for the very base where we've got our text, I'll foam this one so it's popping out a little bit. Oh, I love it. It's so cute. And now we've just got the stockings left to make. I've made 3 of them, as I said, so I've just got one to show you with. So these work, you've got a solid layer, then a white layer, then another coloured layer, and finally your little fluff with the name on it. I'll glue these together first. So the white one gets glued onto the solid colour underneath. Be careful when you've cut these that you get the right white patterns with the right dark patterns, because they are a bit different. Some of them have got snowflakes on and some of them have got Christmas trees. So you just need to make sure they line up. Not that I can really talk when it comes to getting things lined up, because as you saw earlier, that didn't go so well. Glue that one there. Not quite lined them up very well. Let's squidge them into place while the glue's still wet. There. And then for my name, just a tiny bit of foam. Give it some depth. Stocking done. I've got my other ones too. And then these will be hung on the fireplace. I recommend lying them down all on there before you start sticking them, just to make sure everything's going to fit. If you're doing the envelope for this, if you're going to be posting it, make sure you don't come out any further than the edges, otherwise it won't fit in the envelope. Right, that's looking good. So I can just put a little bit of foam on the back. You want to be careful with any that are hanging off the edge a little bit, like this one. So my foam is going to make sure it completely touches the rest of the fireplace. 2. I think I'm increasing the angle of these as I stick them back on. So there we go, my little Craft with Sarah family fireplace is all finished. And because we've got that bottom layer as the card, it will stand up perfectly. Or you could frame it if you want to, if you didn't want to stand it up. Or equally, you could just prop it up against something on a shelf. If you decided to make the envelope for your fireplace, then you'll have all of these pieces left over. I've cut this from a scrapbook paper, which means I've got a lovely pattern on both sides, which will look extra special for the envelope. Scrapbook paper is great because it's not too thick, so I would recommend cutting the envelope bits from either scrapbook paper or colour paper or thin cardstock. You don't want it too thick or it just doesn't work quite as well. Let's move all these bits to the side and then take the main piece that we scored down and turn it upside down. Fold upwards along all of those score lines. Oh, I can't actually see them. I know they're here somewhere. There's too much pattern on my paper. There we go. If you're struggling to see your score lines too, then what you could do is just score them again by hand to make it a little bit deeper to know you're going in the right place. I'm just going to hold mine into the light until I get it bending in the right place. Well, the rest of them are okay. It's just that first one I struggled to find. Maybe the scoring stylus didn't quite go down enough on that one or something. They're all fine. Okay, next turn it back the right way round and open up all the flaps again. and then take either some glue or double-sided tape. I find double-sided tape the easiest for envelopes. This is an easy runner grand and it's a dispenser for double-sided tape. It's one of my favourite crafting tools. It never lets me down. And what's great about it is you can buy refills, so you don't need to buy the whole thing every time you run out of tape. I'm going to go down every single side on my envelope, all of these tabs, and make sure you don't put any adhesive the other side of the score line, just on the little tab bits. Next, we need to stick the edges on, and be careful because this looks pretty square, but it's actually not a square. So there are shorter and longer sides. You can kind of tell which one it is because two of the sides have got little angles on the edges and the other two are straight, and that's matched on the pieces here. So you can see that one's got an angle on it, and these ones, the edges are square, straight. So that's a nice, quick and easy way to tell which one goes where. Each of these sides are the same though, so these two pieces are the same, and then these two pieces are the same as each other too. So you don't need to worry about which way round they go. Lining these up along those score lines. Oh, didn't do that very well. Let's try that again. So it should line up on that overlap and also down the score line. One more. There. Okay, now we need to start sticking the envelope together. And what we're going to do is fold the two shorter sides in, and then one of the longer sides will go up like that. If you're using, if you're going to be sending this in the post, you might want to glue this as I think it would be more secure, but I'm going to be hand delivering this, so double-sided tape is fine. I'll go down that side and also down the little slanted bit, down there. And the same on this one. Overlapped my tape a bit there. Just neaten that up. Okay. And then this one will fold up, perfectly cover all of that tape, and give it a really good press down to get it stuck. Don't stick this one down yet, otherwise you won't be able to put your card in. But there is our super simple handmade envelope. Let's give it a little test. So I'll slide this in. And I kind of sometimes put my layered designs in this way if they're quite fragile, which this one is with all these little pieces, because there's less to catch and less risk to damaging it if you slide it in upside down. But of course, it's completely up to you. Slide that in. And then the top of my envelope would close up beautifully, and I could either glue it or use some double-sided tape or washi tape or a wax seal or sticker. There's loads of different ways you could close your envelope. But there we go, family fireplace card and matching envelope done. I hope you enjoyed this video on how to make this family fireplace design for Christmas. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel for loads more Christmas and Cricut tutorials. I hope to see you again tomorrow for day 18 of the Christmas Craft Countdown. Thank you for watching. Bye!